Go live. It's 11:15 on Thursday. We're a little late because we have a new camera. Hopefully you can tell the quality of the video. I can. From what I'm looking at on my monitor, it looks a million times better, Bob. Bob, you're looking gorgeous today.
Thank you. I'll take your word for it. I can see the back of the monitor. Actually, I can see my reflection in the back of the monitor.
Well, if it's anything as good as this side, you're looking great, brother.
Great. Well, you're looking great too. Love the hat.
Yeah, man. We're going to have to get one that has a boomer on here, a guy running.
Yeah.
A running man symbol. So
we're going to get that.
We'll put in a special order.
That hat is smoking.
It's smoking, just like New York City. And actually, if you guys haven't seen our title here, we're talking about the Canadian wildfires and the smoke pollution that all the people in the Northeast are dealing with because of it. It's pretty crazy, Bob. If you guys haven't seen the news, what are you doing? But if you haven't seen some of the pictures, I actually have some queued up here I wanted to show you all. So did you see the one? Well, first of all, the Rays are the best team in baseball.
Yeah.
Best team in the last 100 years. It gave me a chance to talk about the Rays because I'm about to show a picture from the Yankees Stadium. Look at that. Bob, you can't see the monitor, but if you could,
I've seen the picture before.
It looks like an apocalypse.
Yeah.
It looks like an apocalypse is happening, and the people are just playing through it. It's very weird. There's actually a post from one of the people who I know that live up there. They said, "Hey, don't worry about us. We're just practicing for Fallout 2024."
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the game at Yankee Stadium was canceled yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really good thing because exercising, running, breathing deeply in that type of pollution is the worst thing that you can do. So glad they canceled that game. They also canceled at least one concert that I know about.
Yeah, well, if you're a smoker, you could save some money by just stepping outside and breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kidding, but like seriously, it's not good. Here's another photo I have of the harbor where the Statue of Liberty is. You can see there's a boat right in front of it, and you could barely. I mean, you could see the silhouette, but you can't really see any detail from where this photo is being shot of the Statue of Liberty. She needs to turn the flame on so we could see that she's there. I don't think they even have it on in this photo, but it's definitely something that it really brings to mind how aware we really probably need to be, and much more aware of the hazards in the air.
Yeah, they say that somewhere around 7 million people die every year worldwide from air pollution.
Really?
Yeah. And it's one of the leading causes of death. If you add it up with other types of pollution from the water and household chemicals and it's upwards to 9 million people a year dying from pollution. So it's a real live modern day type of health hazard, health crisis. So it's very important to address it and talk about what we can do about it, where the risks are. And
well, when was it Greenpeace or the environmental companies years ago, or environmental people with environmental interests started talking about reducing carbon emissions and stuff like that from cars. That's an effort that we are making slowly, as usual. But there's other countries that are doing that, like China. China is just they don't really have any air quality rules from what I remember. Maybe that's changed, but people in China, you see them outside with masks constantly because there's so much air pollution.
Yeah, the pollution is worse, also a lot worse in Russia. When I used to travel to Russia, you had a constant feeling of nausea from the air pollution.
That's horrible.
The air was chewy.
The air was chewy. Yeah. You could literally take a bite out of it. That's sad because, one of the things that we rely on, our bodies need as aerobic life, is a clean source of air. And, with cutting down a lot of the rainforests and not reforesting, that's a lot of what the plants do is filter this carbon dioxide and give us fresh oxygen.
Air. Yeah. And so right now along the East Coast of the United States, it's coming down further, is having a particularly bad situation because of the wildfires in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of forest, a lot of vegetation in Canada. It's not as densely populated as the United States. The country's about the same size, but way less people. So there's a lot more forest. So when you do have a dry spell and wildfires, it can be very devastating to the people in Canada, as well as the drift that comes down south across the border.
Exactly.
And it's at a crisis point now. People in New York that are already compromised with lung conditions really should, if all possible, get out. They should come down to Florida, where the smoke has not gotten down this far. They should come down here till those fires are put out and the smoke dissipates, because it does get deep into your lungs and it can take a long time to recover from an event like that. I had that experience in 2001. I was at the recovery site at the World Trade Center after 9/11, breathed in the toxins, the smoke, and the smoldering aftermath that was burning asbestos and
Did you wear a
gypsum
mask
and
at all?
No, we didn't. We didn't have any masks. The masks were in very short supply.
Oh, wow.
So I was there for a few days without a mask, and got really bad lung infection. I had a cough for 7 years after that.
I remember there was a couple times, maybe a couple years ago, I remember something happened and it irritated you, and you were nebulizing glutathione.
Yeah.
To help,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, very good thing to do. People in New York and Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., that whole area that's affected. We do have a map to share with people.
Yeah, I'm actually pulling that up right now.
One of the best things that you can do is get a nebulizer, which is a small little device that makes this very fine particle steam.
Mm-hmm.
Very inexpensive device, $50, $60. And you can get some glutathione from your health food store, your drugstore. It comes in these capsules that you can break apart, put the powder in the chamber where the active ingredient goes, add distilled water to it, and nebulize that. And it will keep the inflammation down in your lungs. You're going to get tremendous inflammation from breathing the air in the New York area and all in that whole region and in Canada.
Yeah, I actually I'm pulling the map up right now to show you guys. I wanted to get a live view of it. Yeah, okay, here's a live view of it. I'm going to take a screenshot. But yeah, while I'm doing that, so one of the things that we were talking about in our meeting was, so you said it's actually smart is to get out of the region if it's something that's really, if you have a real issue with the air quality. For people who can't do that, what is something that they can think about? Obviously, you could wear a mask, but
So wearing a mask is very good. It will filter out a lot of the particulates. You also want to protect your eyes. If you can get a tight-fitting pair of goggles, I would do that. When I lived in New York in the 1980s, the air pollution was really bad there.
And you're wearing like ski goggles?
I didn't at the time, but what happened to me was my eyes got so badly affected from the air pollution.
Yeah.
The surface of my eyes became kind of like a crepe paper. It wasn't normal anymore. If I got something in my eye and tried to dab it out, the surface of my eye would stick to the Kleenex and would literally pull the surface of my eye away from my eyeball.
That sounds really uncomfortable, and it's making my eyes squirm. So,
so once I moved out of New York City and moved up to Westchester County, it took about a year, and my eyes went back to normal.
Ooh. So you just got to get out of it's making my eyes itch. It really is.
You got to get out of the area if you can. But in general, air pollution, for people that are exposed to it constantly, it contributes to heart disease and infections, respiratory infections, contributes to lung cancer,
Yes.
even diabetes and kidney disease, and also low birth weight for
Yeah.
women who are pregnant, and which is a big problem. Child is exposed to it. Also, the particulates and the poisonous chemicals make their way into the bloodstream and get passed to a child. Many children are born around the world with hundreds of toxic chemicals in their blood on the day that they're born. So it's a very, very serious issue. So for anybody that's there, really try your best to get out. Go south or go to the west. If you have relatives, you can go visit. Come on vacation to Florida.
Yeah, come on down. It's the summertime.
Us at Boomers Forever Young.
I actually, as you're saying that, I have the map up on the screen, and so the parts of this map that are red are very unhealthy. Obviously, red stands for unhealthy parts per million. 199 is what they have up here. If the forecast is red, there may be times during the day when air quality is okay. It says continue to check current air quality. This is off of airnow.gov. They're not, they haven't updated it for the current situation, but they have the right image up, which is this current one. So New York, Philadelphia, Trenton, all those areas are in red. You've got purple in Pennsylvania, which is just one step under. And then, like you said, the further you go west, the less it is, but there's still a good amount. If you look over to the left on this image, you'll see Pittsburgh still in orange. So, it's definitely something. If you can get out of there, that would be really good. But yeah, I have to tell you, Florida, we got the bay, we got the water on each side, so we've always got a nice breeze pushing across.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we do, Raleigh, actually, because port towns like Tampa has a port where a lot of ships come in, cruise ships, cargo ships. So port towns like Tampa, like New York, which has a couple of ports, Port of New York, Port Elizabeth, and San Diego, the like, have much higher air pollution than other places because the ships have very poor quality control of their emissions. They're coming from all over the world. And so a port town like Tampa is generally more polluted. But we also do have the issue with the constant breezes, which helps areas that don't have as much of a breeze get more stagnant, and people need to be aware that if they're in a port town, they're more susceptible to getting these diseases we talked about before.
Right now, we're talking about air pollution and the quality of air and the hazards it has for your health. What ends up happening is the particulates from the smoke, tire dust we talk about all the time, the chemicals that off gas from your shoes in your house, household chemicals in your house that have PFAs in them. Yep. All these things create basically inflammation, right? When they come into contact with your body, the problem is they're causing inflammation to occur. Inflammation damages the body, right? Yep. And on top of everything that, the foods and sugars that we eat that cause inflammation, the drinks that we drink, all the soda pop with the sugar, you're bombarding your body with inflammation. It's getting overrun, kind of like New York City is right now with smoke.
Yeah.
Right. Your body is getting enveloped with inflammation. And what does that do?
Yeah. Well, inflammation leads to about 95% of all diseases. So,
right.
If you're going to be in a situation and you're stuck in a place like New York where your lungs are going to be inflamed, you want to do everything you can to mitigate it. The masks, and particularly even if you can get a respirator, very important.
Like one that you would kind of not a just a cloth one, but you see the ones with the little holes on the side.
Yeah.
I actually sometimes I would do drywall work. And that was what they suggest you wear, because those respirators actually filter a lot more than just a regular mask.
Yeah, so get one if you can. Goggles for your eyes, really important. And also, this is the time to start getting into the habit of leaving your shoes outside the house.
Yeah.
If you're in New York and you're out and about walking around, you're picking up that that air pollution on your shoes because it settles. It's on the sidewalks. It's in the grass, and then you're bringing those shoes into the house. You take them off at night. You go to sleep at night, and those shoes are off gassing the pollution. So you definitely at this time of year want to make sure your shoes are outside and wash your clothes frequently. You go out and about, all that smoke's going to cling to your clothes. You want to, when you get home, you want to wash those clothes, or you want to contain them somehow in a sealed bag, so that if you're only going to wash your clothes once every 3 days, that it's not in an open hamper off gassing.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, just throw them in the washing machine. But some people who live in New York, they don't have a washing machine in their apartment or their home or whatever. Right. So, yeah, put it in a contained hamper, or put a plastic bag in your hamper, like kind of like a trash bag, and then seal it.
Seal your clothes when you come home. Seal those clothes up, and leave your shoes outside, and make sure you wear your mask, your goggles, and absolutely do not exercise. Don't go out to exercise, and don't even exercise in your house. Put it on hold for a week, 2 weeks, however long it takes for the smoke to dissipate.
Mm-hmm.
That deep breathing you'll do from exercising will make it a lot worse.
They have air purifiers. A lot of the times they have little small apartment-sized ones. I know we have one here. At Boomer's, a very high-powered, air filter that we use in the office. It's actually really amazing thing. That would be an advisable thing. I know they're expensive, but in general, you think to yourself, well, I'm not going to buy it just for now because of the smoke thing. But if you're living in a metropolitan area, just like we talked about, there's the port towns right there. It wouldn't hurt to have this thing even after the smoke clears, you know?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Absolutely. You want an air filtration system for your house. And you also, another really big issue, we had a customer who had this issue. She didn't realize it. If you have a gasoline powered vehicle, a car that you pump gas into,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whenever you go to pump gas, test the wind, right? And you want to get upwind.
Right.
So if you start pumping gas and you can feel the wind is blowing in one direction, you don't want to be on the other side of the gas pump, because it's going to blow the fumes all over you. You're going to breathe them in. Get on the other side so that the fumes are being blown away from you.
Okay.
Now, if possible, you also want to be on the end. So if you know which direction the wind is blowing, or which direction it normally always blows, here in Florida, it's usually blowing in from the Gulf the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's blowing
from the
west to east.
Yeah.
So if you're going to a gas station that's got 4 or 5 pumps in a row, you want to be at the pump that's the farthest west. And then put your pump in, start your gas, and get on the other side. Otherwise, you can be, if you're in the ones farther east,
you're going to hit by those.
You're going to get hit by all the other pumps. And for some people, that's critical. We had a customer who was very sick. We were helping her for a number of months, and she wasn't getting any better. And based on the symptoms she was telling us about, I asked her, do you ever pay attention when you're pumping gas? And she was like, well, what are you talking about? I explained this to her and told her that in the future she had to get away from the gas. I knew this because I have a sister who's very susceptible to this. She gets very sick if she's exposed to gas fumes. And a lot of people are susceptible to it. So she started paying attention and staying away from the gas fumes, and she got better.
Wow.
Yeah. This was probably 7 or 8 years ago.
I don't know. I don't know if I knew of that one. So yeah, or you could have, if you've got a great husband or a loved one, they could fill up the tank for you if they don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Never really would have thought of that. That's interesting. I remember when I was a kid. This is kind of messed up, but I would go into the garage. My dad had a motorcycle, old Yamaha 750, and I was like, whoa. I think it was a Honda 750. It was a Honda 750. And I would sit on it, and the tank is right there. I'd pull the thing off. Ooh, smell that gasoline fume. It was like, I did that once, and I never did it again. I was like, oh my God, that smells horrible. And it was
Yeah.
like, whoa, instant headache. And it was
So,
like, don't ever
so
do
you can
that.
see this is a liquid that is off-gassing.
Yes.
Okay. So, and solids can off-gas as well. So that's real important to know that liquid gasoline is giving off a lot of gas, and you're are polluting yourself tremendously by not paying attention to how you pump your gas.
That's interesting. That's a
So,
good one.
so if you start doing that, leave your shoes outside the house. Okay, those are all really good things. The other thing is, well, there's a product. It's called Prodentum, which is really good for helping mitigate upper respiratory infections. Okay, and in general, the good bacteria, certain bacteria, are really good at scavenging bad bacteria.
Right.
And when you take a little tablet called Prodentum, you put it in your mouth, and you let it dissolve. It takes 5 or 10 minutes actually for it to dissolve, which is a good thing. And as you make saliva impregnated with the bacteria that's in this pill, you swish it around in your mouth and you breathe deeply, because that bacteria not only is in the liquid, but it's in the air. It's off gassing, and you can breathe in those bacteria, which will get into your lungs, and it will help keep down lung infections. So right now, you're more susceptible to lung infections if you're in New York, Philadelphia, Trenton, etc. Get some Prodentum and take it every day. Do it in the morning. Put the pill in your mouth. Let it dissolve. It was originally created for infections in your mouth, for gingivitis, right? And it works really well for that, but it also tends to help with many other things, including your lungs.
That makes sense. You've got the thing dissolving, and there's going to be a chemical reaction, and then there's going to be gas from that reaction that can be then inhaled. And if it's beneficial in containing bacteria, that's what we need to counteract all the bad stuff we're breathing in. So that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I was going to talk about real quick, we were talking about inside air purifiers. I would think changing out your air filter frequently in this particular time might be something you'd want to consider doing if you're living if you have to be in the area and you can't leave.
Air filter for your AC system.
Correct. Yeah. Up north, right? Because it's the summertime. So not a lot of people, I've noticed not a lot of people up north, they don't rely on air conditioning throughout the winter. But during this time of the year is when they start turning it on, right? And so now they're going to start turning it on when the weather gets hot, and it's going to have and if they haven't been using it, the smoke's going to have settled, that's come in, it's going to have settled, and you're going to kick it off, and you're going to have that in your house. So definitely be mindful of your air filter. They say you're supposed to change it, every month?
Yeah.
But if you got animals, if you have hair in your house, you're supposed to do it like every 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. And keep an eye on it, especially if you're in a place like New York. It's a port town. Right now, you got tremendous pollution. Very good point. Another really good thing probably that people can do is there are certain types of tea that are for sale at health food stores, maybe even the drugstore, that they call lung tea or respiratory tea. And it'll be a combination of a number of different types of teas, flowers, berries, etc., that are all known for helping cleanse your lungs. And highly recommended. Find some lung tea. It really does.
Is it called lung tea?
Lung tea, Lung.
Interesting. Yeah. What's do you know the type of tea actually, or just?
Well, it's a combo. It's a combination of many different things blend that are good for your lungs.
That's why they call it lung tea. It's not just one or two. It's not just one. It's multiple.
Yes,
that makes sense. The other thing you had mentioned, if we're talking about inside, because we did a show about this PFAS in the house. And one of the things I don't know if we talked about on there that I kind of think is appropriate for this show is vacuums and rugs, having rugs in your home. Yeah. How important it is to get a good vacuum. If you've had the same vacuum for a while and you think it's doing a good job, it might make a huge difference in your home if you have allergies or something to maybe look into getting a new vacuum. I just recently I thought what was a decent vacuum for a couple years, and I was using it, and you mentioned this to me, and this was about a year ago, and I was like, maybe I should switch out maybe let me try it. So Chrissy, my wife Christina, who was just making comments in the in the chat, went online and found a really good deal on this. It's like a cyclonic one that has works different, a little bit better suction. And I have to say that made a huge difference. Actually, the first time I ran it over my carpet, it was kind of scary. I was like, I know I vacuumed within the last 3-4 days with my other vacuum, but why is there so much crud? And it was just, it's like anything. Vacuums wear out. The suction, the things in there that don't work so good, they get clogged up. And if, you could clean it out as much as you want, sometimes you just can't get out all the crud. So vacuums are very important.
Yeah, so there's some controversy over whether or not you should have rugs at all,
right,
based on pollution. Okay. Now, there's a couple of factors to it. Rugs themselves have fire retardant, and they off-gas fire retardant chemicals, really bad for the little children. So if people have a little baby, starts to learn to crawl,
put them on the carpet. It's soft,
and it's and is breathing in toxins. Okay. Now, in general, air pollution is lower in houses that have carpet. And the reason is that pollution is constantly settling. And the carpet traps it. Whereas if it's on a hardwood floor, it doesn't.
Gotcha.
And then as you walk, it stirs it up. Okay. But the pollutants that get down deep into the carpet are not stirred up when you walk on it. And so in general, the air pollution is better if you have carpet. But you have to vacuum, because what happens is the pollutants build up in the carpet, and when there's enough of it, then you do stir it up when you walk on the carpet.
Gotcha.
And so you want to, once a month, do a deep cleaning of your carpet so it's fresh again, so that the pollutants are falling to the bottom of the carpet threads. And there's been scientific research studies on that about, is it better to have carpet or not carpet? And
no, there's probably, like with a sponge, a carpet, you probably got a saturation point. Once it gets to that point, it can't hold any more water.
Yeah.
So it's time to squeeze the sponge out and give it a refresher.
But now, if you're in New York, that's been elevated.
Right.
No matter how much you try to close up your house, that pollution from the wildfires is in your house.
Right.
Especially if you're not leaving your shoes outside.
Right.
Right. And so now you're going to want to vacuum your carpet much more frequently.
Plus you're opening the doors, stuff's coming in. You got vents to go out to the outside. You probably got maybe a few little leaks in the home, So it's something that, like I had mentioned, being aerobic life, having a good source of clean air is something we take for granted because, it's always around. It takes something like this apocalyptic smoke in New York for us to be like, oh yeah, we should probably pay a little more attention to this.
So just two things. We're all back on the carpet for a second. If you have a carpet cleaning service, which a lot of people don't have the type of cyclonic vacuum that you have, and they rely on a professional cleaning service. And so they'll have it come and get it cleaned. And then the cleaning service will say, well, we really should come back in 3 months. Oh, no, it's okay. We'll call you. Right? Don't do that. The reason they're recommending 3 months is because they know how the pollutants build up in the carpet, and they know when they should be coming back. And if you don't put it on a scheduled maintenance, you're going to be exposed to way more pollutants than is necessary. So sign up for that service. This is an investment in your health.
Another thing that I was, when we were researching this, is a lot of companies that do carpet cleaning use detergents that leave residue. A residue on the fibers of the actual carpet. So there's the residue that's usually not good. It's usually some sort of chemical or detergent. But then that residue from that traps more dirt on the fibers of the carpet, right? Because you've got, it's kind of like, it's not sticky, but it's not, it's like a go-between. It's like soap. It's got like a part that the oil sticks to and a part that the water will run off of. So this residue from these carpet chemicals stay on there. And there's a part of it that'll come off with water. But if you're not rinsing it in 3 months like they suggest, or doing it again in 3 months, that residue picks up more and off gases more, and then more dirt settles. So there's that part of it. There's a company in St. Pete. They do zero residuals on their carpet cleaning.
Yeah.
I hear them on the radio all the time.
That's good. You also want to ask them to vacuum your curtains.
That's a very good point too.
And your furniture.
Yep. And cleaning your ducts in your home, your air ducts in your home, especially in an older home. You don't really realize how much you think, oh, well, the air's blowing it all through there. You know, what could settle when your air conditioning's not running and you're not using it? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that settles in those tubes.
A lot of mold gets up in
there.
A
lot of mold.
So the one other thing, Raleigh, I wanted to say was we have tremendous experience with our customers who use our barley product.
Yes.
And it cleanses your lungs.
This is amazing for cleansing lungs. We've actually had people call after usually about 2 or 3 months. They could get a little like a raspiness to them. And they're like,
a little cough.
Yeah, should I be concerned? Right? And
yeah. So when you use sprouted barley seeds like the ones we have, your body starts to detox right away.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to detox your internal organs, your blood will detox, and eventually your lungs will start to detox.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't happen right away. Usually 6 to 8 weeks later is when you might develop this cough. And you don't want it to get too bad, right? So if you're a person who's got a lot of toxins in your lungs and you start to cough, and then it starts to get worse, you could end up getting pneumonia.
You need to take a break.
You have to take a break for a few days till you stop coughing and then start over again slowly. Find the sweet spot until all that stuff is coughed up out of your lungs. It could take a couple of months.
Yeah,
if you're going slow.
I know people who. There's a couple of people. There's a gentleman that I knew that worked around paint.
Yeah.
Now paint has a lot of heavy metals and stuff in there, but there's also a lot of stuff in there, particulates from the aerosols that get in there. And this gentleman, after a couple months, he actually had to, because it was so bad, we had to tell him, hey, you got to just stop, right? And just use the boomer boost, right? Use this. It'd stop. And so he stopped for like a week and a half. And when he started back, we actually start him on, we have a slow start calendar for people who have like issues with kidneys and, that respond with a lot of toxins and a lot of detoxification. We have a slow start calendar. We put him on there and he went through that. And it was a while, about 3-4 weeks it took him to be able to get back to using the regular dosage. But it's really important, because these are things that, end up with COPD, never clearing out your lungs. Like my uncle who died from COVID because he had COPD.
Yeah.
The COVID made it quicker, but because he was susceptible, because he was a smoker for 60 years, takes you out.
Yeah. I remember being at a conference one time on cancer, and a very famous physician named Lee Cowden was in charge of this conference, and he was speaking at the podium talking about a person who had worked in a carburetor shop. And he was very sick, and they tested his blood and they could tell that he'd been severely poisoned from these fumes. And they had a technique where they had an elixir that would expel gasoline fumes from your body.
Oof.
And they had it in a little glass vial, and they had a green light laser, a little laser pointer, and they had him go into a separate room of the clinic and showed him how to turn the laser on and shine it through that glass vial, and it would refract and make this wide beam. They said, just run that beam, just keep shining it through, and run the whole thing all over your body. So he started doing it, and the gas fumes that were coming out of his body were so much, it was leaking into the other rooms of the clinic.
Oh.
And people are like, wow, what's all with this gas fumes? Was there an emergency? And it was this man off-gassing.
That's crazy.
And they had to go into the room and open up a couple of windows and start a fan to get all the fumes out the windows so they wouldn't pollute the
No
rest
wonder
of
why
the
he was
clinic.
so sick.
Yeah, and so this is how bad it can get.
Yeah.
And your body is very gelatinous and absorbs things very well. Gases and all kinds of pollutants are very easily absorbed by your body.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've lived to be for 67 years,
Mm-hmm.
like me, you can have a lot of pollutants in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky for me, I know how to get rid of them using our barley and zeolite.
Zeolite, heavy metal detox. Actually, yeah, while we're talking about, yes, we're talking about air pollutants and things like that. And a lot of people we talk to are really concerned about heavy metals, especially, I know, like the gentleman I was telling you who worked in the paint area, worried about heavy metal detoxification, right? And what you can use to remove the heavy metals, because the barley is great at cleansing almost pretty much everything except the heavy metals, because heavy metals, they're different molecular structure, right? And they actually need to have something with holes and pockets and a charge to attract them and capture them, right? And what do we have for that?
Well, that's what zeolite does for people.
Well, I just explained it.
The zeolite has a honeycomb-like structure, so when you take drops of it, it gets into your body, and the heavy metals are attracted to it, and it fills up those holes in that honeycomb structure. Mm-hmm. And then it gets moved out of your body. So it's a way to detox from heavy metals, which are in a lot of gases that you breathe. If you're breathing in gas fumes, you've got heavy metals in those gas fumes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of research that shows which metals tend to coagulate in what parts of your body. Benzene in particular will coagulate in your thymus, which is not good. Your thymus is in charge of encoding your immune system.
Yeah. People get autoimmune disorders.
And they find that people with AIDS that have the worst symptoms have the most benzene in their thymus.
Oh, wow.
And so a very good assist for anybody is to get rid of the heavy metals, particularly if you've been exposed to a lot of car fumes, which I was in New York City.
A lot of people have occupational hazards. We talked about this in another show where it's their job to be around this stuff. And, somebody's got to do this. So mitigating your exposure is extremely important when you're in an occupation where you kind of have to be around this. And a lot of people that do that type of work, they're kind of like me. They get wrapped up in getting the job done and finishing it instead of saying, okay, I've been in this room with all this stuff for 2-3 hours. Let me get out of here and take a break. They prioritize getting the job done at the expense of their health.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, most companies that work with heavy metals and chemicals have protocols that employees are supposed to kind of follow. Mm-hmm. So they don't have an issue with that kind of stuff.
I had an issue with that. Raleigh, when I was young, I worked for one day in a Clorox factory. And the process of making Clorox, one of the waste products is this white dust. And the plant would be clean at the beginning of the day. By the end of the day, there was 2 or 3 inches of this dust on the floor.
There's a mosquito in here.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. So there's 2 or 3 inches?
Yeah.
Like snow?
Like snow, like it had snowed.
Jeez.
And you're breathing that in all day long while you're working in the Clorox factory to produce these bottles of Clorox that are getting them into the boxes and out the door to be shipped. And it made me so sick that I couldn't come back for the second day. It was.
What were you wearing?
No, they didn't have any masks for us or anything like that. It was like, here's your job. Get moving.
1960 something?
It would have been 1979.
Holy crap! Yeah. Wow, so, even that way, you're almost to the 80s there.
Yeah.
Then you're still working and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs that I had that had toxic stuff, putting on tar roofs, things like that.
I've worked with stuff like that. Yeah, that's bad.
Always like that. But I'm happy now that having gotten access to the barley and to zeolite, you can actually totally cleanse your body of all the toxins and then take the measures we're talking about to make sure that you're not constantly reinfecting yourself.
There you go. I mean, again, our prayers go out to the people in New York and up in Northeast. natural disasters, man, it's kind of like they make you take a step back and realize, okay, we got to start paying attention to this. So in a way, it's kind of a good way to open people's eyes, but at the same time, the fallout of it is not something you want to have long-term effect from. So use these tips that we're talking about, and powerful antioxidants, zeolite heavy metal detoxifier, taking the precautions with your shoes, with your carpeting, with all the things,
conditioning filters,
all the things that filter your air for you. Be very careful with them. And I won't bring this up, but I was thinking about window air conditionings. Probably don't even run those. There's no filter on a window air conditioning. So if you cannot run a window air conditioning in New York, I would tell you not to. I would think
not right now.
But anyway, I think that's about it, Bob. We got anything else you could think of?
No, that's it for now, Raleigh. Thanks.
Cool, man.
Thanks everybody for watching Live Forever Young Radio here on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok.
Glad
to have all of you. See you next time.
Thank you.